Like you said, my name is Debbie Pippin. Otis really apologizes for not coming tonight. He tried, but his employer just would not let him off. He is a nurse, and so they are shorthanded, so he could not get off tonight. The few things that he did tell me about that he would like to address or like to have, he mentioned like a community garden to help feed some of the needy people that we have in Weaver, maybe lower income or even our elderly who's on a fixed income, to work on upgrading the park and making the playground a little more kid-friendly. Some of the people have told us that some of the playground equipment out there is not efficient for their children of their age group, like smaller children. And also to try to finish the Jacksonville Road project.
And thank you, Ms. Pippin. Now we have drawn names in order to determine the order in which the candidates are going to speak. Les Hill, you have the next statement. If you'll come up here to the podium, you get to begin and tell us about yourself and why they should vote for you.
My name is Les Hill. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. Some of your faces are familiar to me. Some of you are not. I've been a resident of Weaver for approximately 5 years. This is the second time that I've lived in Weaver. After I got out of the Army in 2005, I attended JSU. I'm an Afghanistan veteran. That was the first time I lived in Weaver. It was much cheaper for me to rent a house in Weaver than the one in Jacksonville. I loved it so much. After I graduated, I moved away briefly, decided to move back. I've been an investigator at the Anniston Police Department for about 5 years. I'm married to Prudence Hill, my wife over here. Several residents approached me about running for office. It was something I was hesitant to do, but as many of you have seen, there's a need for competent leadership throughout the community, not just in Weaver. And I think that I'm well qualified to be that leader. Thank you.
And thank you. Our next candidate is Keith Campbell.
Hello everyone, I'm Keith Campbell, and it's a pleasure to see everybody here tonight. I know a lot of the folks that's in this crowd tonight, and I just appreciate all of you being here. I lived here all my life, worked in the community, was employed in the community for 27 years up until May, and served and paid my dues with Weaver Baseball for Youth for many years, possibly 12, 13 years, something like that. But I love Weaver. I just want things to get better, and I'm all for progress, and I'm on a mission, and the only way I can fulfill my mission is if I get your vote. And if you'll vote for me, I'll make sure I do you right. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Our next candidate, Natalie Stevens.
Hi, my name is Natalie Stevens. I have lived in Weaver for 17 years. Have 2 small children that go to Weaver Elementary School. I appreciate all y'all coming out tonight. I just want to say that I'm not a politician. I'm a full-time working mother, and I believe that I can bring a lot of good ideas, new ideas to the community. I would just like to ask everybody come out and vote. Even if you don't vote for me, please just do come out and vote. It's a right that we all have, and we have lost a lot of people. A lot of people sacrificed for the right to vote, so please just do come out and vote. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Stevens. Warren Dempsey will be the next candidate.
Good evening. My name is Warren Dempsey. I've been a resident of Weaver here for 43 years. Lived here the majority of my life. I'd like to see some progress in this town, and I've introduced a few ideas that might help out. But, you know, the main thing to do, everybody get out and vote, and we sure appreciate your time and effort to come over here for this meeting, and hopefully we can progress everything here in this town and progress the schools and make things grow. And that's what we want to see. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Our next candidate, Mike Warren. Mike, you ready?
Hey, y'all doing all right? I look over the crowd, I see most of you know who I am. Those who don't, I'm Mike Warren. My qualifications, if you want to call them qualifications, about 30 years involved in our youth sports here in Weaver, from baseball, football, softball, you name it, I've been involved. Over at the high school, I'm currently a charter member of the Weaver Lions Club, the only service club we have in Weaver. And I'm also a charter member of the Weaver Alumni Group. All those members graduated from Weaver. We welcome you to come to some of our meetings, help us out. Now I've got almost 20 years experience in Weaver City government. I've served 4 terms before, and I've served this partial term. And my experience is what I base, my experience and knowledge is what I'm asking you to use to vote for me for in this election. And we would like to see all of y'all at some of our council meetings and come out to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Ms. Cole. Ellen Cole is the next candidate to have a 1-minute opening statement.
Am I talking loud enough? I'm Ellen Cole. I have lived in Weaver since 1960. I am a widow of Jerry Cole, who grew up here all of his life. I'm a member of the First United Methodist Church. I've served on various committees. I'm a graduate of JSU. I have a master's degree in public administration. I was past president of the Calhoun County Alumni Association for several years. I have been on the Board of Governors at Jacksonville State University for 6 years. And right now I'm a board member of the Calhoun County, Cleveland County Mental Health Board. And I was a past member of the Historical Committee from Weaver. And I love Weaver. It's been my life. Between Jacksonville University and Weaver, it has been my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. And the number one question, I think I've got 5 versions of it here, has to do with repaving the roads in Weaver. Specifically, the Jacksonville Street project, the repaving of Anniston Street, the other roads, the road projects, and also the traffic on Alexandria Road. So in 2 minutes, tell us what you would do about repaving the roads here in Weaver.
Well, I'm all for that. I have been since I was about that high. But, you know, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But to accomplish that, I would assume all the right things have got to be in order, because it's all about money. And I'm not sure where we stand as a city right now, as far as financially. But I'm all for anything that can be done to improve the roads. The infrastructure as a whole in Weaver needs some attention. And if we have to put aside a few little things that's been focused on to make the big things happen, whatever it takes in that category, I'm all for it. I mean, I've got your vote on that. I mean, I'm all for that. I'll back you 100%. So that's where we're at, and that's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Ms. Stevens, it's your turn to come up here and tell us what you would do about repaving and repairing the roads here in the city of Weaver.
Roads. Of course, all the roads would be great if we could pave them all. I don't think that that's probably possible, but first we'd need to figure out which ones we want to do first. And then, as Keith said, we'd, of course, have to come up with the funds. And Weaver being a small city, a small community, of course, we don't have unlimited funds like other cities and communities. So we'd have to raise the money to do it. And if we could do that, then why not? That would probably be a very good priority to be on top of the list. So we just have to come together as a community and raise the money, get the money, maybe bring in some new business to raise the money and pave the roads.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. And now, Mr. Dempsey, the same question goes to you. What you would do to repave and repair the roads here in Weaver?
Well, as it was brought up previously, it takes money to do that. Paving roads is a very costly thing. I know how that goes. I work for County Highway Department, so I see it all every day. And it does take revenues to generate that. And believe it or not, a lot of the roads we're doing with the highway department are not paved, they're tar and gravel. But we are rebuilding these roads that were actually hog wallers as far as potholes. It's pathetic out there, but I'm all for redoing roads, but if we can get some businesses in here and do some other things to generate revenues for this town, you know, the biking trail is one of the big things that has stepped up to the plate, and we've got people from Georgia and everywhere else biking in here, and if we could set up some concession stands or somewhere along in that trail, we'll make pit stops. That might be a good general idea for revenues. Thank you.
And thank you. And next we're going to go back to Mr. Warren. It's your turn to answer the question about the roads and what you would do about repaving them, repairing them here in Weaver.
Roads definitely need work on. I agree with that. The best thing we could do is have to develop a plan. It can't be a 1-year plan. It can't be a 4-year plan. It's going to be a 5, 6, 10-year plan. What you have to do, we have to take monies that we do generate and we have to set it aside just for roads. Now, one time the city had several $100,000 in, for road, but it's gone. Now the city needs to work on good stewardship, take the money it gets in, put some aside for the road. Now, there's always grants we can apply for. We'll get lucky, we'll get one. One of the things you'll hear me hit on a lot tonight: communication, cooperation, leadership. All right? You got to have communication and cooperation, not only between the council members, but between the council, the city of Weaver, and other city and county governments. Because a small city like us, we're not going to be able to do everything by ourselves. We had to ask for help. We need it. And if you have cooperation and good relationships with these other government entities, they'll help a lot, go a long ways. But anything that we can do, the biggest thing we can do is improve our downtown area, attract some businesses. And we've got some businesses that we can attract. But we need to do a little work on it, and that'll help with the revenue too. But the basic thing is we got to earmark money for roads. One thing I always ask people to do, when I ask them, I say, where do you buy your gas at? Well, I'll get at Walmart, it's cheaper. Well, who's getting that tax money? It ain't the city of Weaver. Buy your gas in the city of Weaver, help us increase our funds, and we can get more roads paved. And if not paved, we can get them patched better anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cole, it's your turn to answer the question about paving and repairing roads here in Weaver.
In 2010, the council went to Montgomery to meet with Don Vaughn, who is the chief engineer of ALDOT. And he said that Weaver was still legally in the plan of the roads between Anniston, Jacksonville, and the county. And what they would do would just put us on the shelf until we got ready to go and say, we want this plan done. So, all we have to do is put ourselves in that plan again. And we would have, they said that he would have his engineers draw up a plan, do the whole thing again, so that the people on Jacksonville Street put their input on how wide they wanted it. Now, the right-of-way's got to stay the same, but it doesn't have to be as wide as it was first planned. So that's what we've got to decide to do. And after the election, we will hold the meeting, a special meeting if it's necessary, to put this plan in action. So they're ready for us. It's just a matter of us doing it.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Hill, your chance to answer the question about roads here in Weaver.
I agree with Mr. Warren about attracting businesses here to Weaver. I am a small business owner. I buy all my fuel in Weaver. But the problem with attracting businesses to Weaver at this point is our infrastructure is starting to fall apart. I know my road in particular is in horrible condition. And one thing that bothers me about these roads is it's been brought to my attention that we've missed some opportunities to get funds to pave these roads. And that's from lack of teamwork, lack of leadership. That can't continue. You know, it's not only up to us to raise that revenue in Weaver, but we've got to take all these outside sources in. We pay taxes to the federal, state government. We need to be getting that money back. And one thing that I think is important to me is we've got to take advantage of every grant that we can write. I have some experience in this grant writing. I've had a graduate course on it. I'm writing several grants right now. If we're not writing every grant that's available out there, we're missing this money. And that money's free. You don't have to pay for it because you've already paid for it before with your federal income tax and your state income tax. We can't continue to miss these opportunities. And if I'm in office, I can tell you I'm going to be writing these grant proposals constantly. And that's all I have to say about that. We've got to get the money, pay the roads, or we're never going to get businesses.
And thank you very much. This is closely related to what we were just talking about. Several of you mentioned that you would like to see more business and industry here in Weaver to help pay for the things such as paving projects. So the question is, what are your plans to bring more businesses and industries into Weaver? How do you do this?
I've worked with the public ever since I graduated high school. I work at Cheehaw Bank in Oxford, and before that I worked at several other banks and worked at the Anniston Star. The main way to get business in is to ask for it. If you don't ask for somebody to do business with you or bring their business to you or open a business in your town, they're not going to come. Nobody's going to knock on your door and say, can I open my business in your town? You have to ask for the business. You have to offer things that nobody else can offer. And with us being a small community, a small city, we don't have a lot to offer except for our small town, hometown community. I work at a community bank. We offer community services. We offer not a recording to answer the phone. You have to ask for it. If you don't ask for it, it won't come. It's not like Santa Claus. You have to ask somebody to come and open a business. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Dempsey, your turn to answer the question. How do you bring more businesses and industries into the town of Weaver?
Well, people are looking for rural areas to set up a business in some cases. A lot of people like to be on a busy street, busy highway where they know there's a lot of traffic. And needless to say, Alexandria Road is a very, very busy road here. If we could get something along the lines of coming in from Main Street to Alexandria from Weaver Road and set up some businesses in that area. We do have some empty buildings just sitting there and haven't been in business for years. That's a good possibility for someone to have a building structure to move into and start something from the ground. I mean, people have to be asked and have to be approached and say, hey, you know, we've got some empty buildings sitting out here if you'd like to set up like a sub and pizza shop or something along those lines would be good, profitable businesses out here and bring in some good revenues. And we definitely need some places to eat here. We used to have some, but they sort of disintegrated over the years, and would like to see some others grow in this town. Thank you.
And thank you. And now, Mr. Warren, your response to the question, how do you bring business and industry into Weaver?
Well, once again, the big theme here, communication, cooperation, leadership. Another thing, businesses look for, how faithful are you to your home businesses? You know, once again, that's just like asking you to buy your gas in Weaver. You know, if you got 75% of the people in Weaver buying their gas elsewhere or doing other shopping elsewhere, why would somebody want to come in and take a chance? You know, if you got to be faithful to your own businesses in your hometown and show, and that's got to show. And our businesses here do pretty good, and we do have some vacant places. And we have had businesses approach us to come in and been told, you don't really want to come to Weaver. Hey, once again, cooperation, communication, leadership. You know, that's all we got to do. One of the biggest things I think should be done to attract is to improve the downtown area close to the bike trail. You know, you got to make it cosmetically appealing. You know, and that will bring people, give people something to look at when they come. Instead of driving through, see a building, growing up weeds around it. The city's got ordinances that they can enforce all this, and we can do a better job of enforcing, I think. But all cities can always do better jobs than that. But that's how you're going to get the people to come in. You got to show that the community will shop there, and got to make available the places for them to shop. Now, we had one time that started a list of all the buildings in Weaver and vacant lots, and we probably still have that list somewhere, but that's what you had to do. And you work with people like the Chamber of Commerce and other governments to let them know that we are open for business. You got to let people know we are open for business, and that's what we need to do, is let people know that. Thank you.
And thank you. Ms. Cole, your plan for business and industrial development.
Well, what do you see when you first drive in across the line between Anniston and Weaver? You come up, you see the trail not being taken care of. You see two old houses that's ready to fall down. Then you come on down and you've got a service station that's out of business, been out of business. People pile their trash there. Why would anybody want to put a business in Weaver with all of this disarray? And you've got to have it looking, as the TV says, curb appeal. We have a master gardener in Weaver that wants to help clean up Weaver. Once we get it cleaned up, get our roads fixed, then I don't think we're going to have a big problem about businesses. But until then, but another thing, and I'm going to be this thing that nobody ever speaks of anymore, we cannot have an industry here because we don't have a sewer system. And what we have to put here are small businesses, mom and pop businesses, and satellite businesses. And that would make a lot of money. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Cole. Mr. Hill, your turn to come up and talk about industrial and business development in Weaver.
Like I touched on earlier, the first thing we have to do to attract business here is to address our infrastructure problem. It's going to be tough to get businesses to relocate here unless we fix the roads to begin with. So that's the first thing we've got to do. And as you know, it's difficult for mom and pop, any kind of business, to operate in a franchise world. Not only do we have to attract those mom and pop restaurants, but I would like to see a franchise type restaurant come to Weaver. And again, as she touched on, most franchise restaurants won't open in a place that doesn't have a sewer system. So a sewer system is something that we are going to have to address at some point if we're going to legitimately attract businesses in here. You know, at this point, I think that our number one thing that we should be focusing on that we have in existence is the bike trail. I believe that we need to be attracting as much tourism as we possibly can at this point, because people are going to ride that bike trail. You know, we have the parking lot here. It's paved, it's nice, it's right next to the police department. People don't mind parking there. You have the unpaved parking lot at the trailhead in Anniston that people don't want to park at. So we need to be promoting what we have here on hand. I think that's going to be a good starting point for us. Now, there are different organizations out there that will promote this bike trail for us for free. And we need to be taking advantage of those things to start with. But again, we're going to have to address these infrastructure problems before we can think about attracting businesses here.
And thank you very much. Mr. Campbell, your turn to answer the question about business.
I've heard a lot of great ideas up here from these fine people, and I agree with all of them. There's a lot to do in Weaver. We do have to make the city attractive first, and most important, though, I feel like, and this has been addressed in an interview that I had for a vacant seat that hasn't been filled yet on the city council. That question came up then, and I would be all about developing a committee that would network with people that are involved heavily in real estate development, this commercial real estate development, and anybody that can go out there and find out who owns all this property that's vacant, who owns all these dilapidated buildings that are vacant, and we need to get to those people and get the right people in front of them that may be interested in buying that property and putting a business in Weaver that would be attractive, you know, to raise the revenue that we need. Until we touch those folks are just going to sit there and let that problem continue to be a problem. And that's the way I would solve that problem as far as getting more business in. Because we have property there that's available, and we just need to get to those people and put them with the people that would be willing to do business out here in Weaver. And but if we do get that in Weaver, we do need the community to support those businesses, and I'm for that, and that's been mentioned several times. And it needs to that needs to be done. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Several questioners want to know, why doesn't the city of Weaver clean up more? For instance, coming into Weaver from Lindlock, the welcome sign needs to be kept clean, the grass needs to be cut. The rest of the question goes to whether or not you should have the homeowners responsible for keeping their properties and their yards clean, vacant houses, etc. So, what are your plans for cleaning up Weaver?
Well, usually the city of Weaver, as far as employees goes, they will hire extra summer help to assist the weed eating and grass cutting crew to take care of different areas like ditches, road signs, and corners and things like that. I think, as I know of right now, there's only 2 persons employed with the city of Weaver right now doing that, and they elected for some reason this year not to hire any summer assistants for weed eating and extra grass cutting and taking care of the signs and things like that. And as far as the individuals are, we have houses, matter of fact, right around us that the weeds are quite tall, and the homeowners are responsible for taking care of these, but they might show up once every 2-3 weeks or whatever, whichever is their leisure, to cut the grass, rather than hiring it out to a yard service that would be there weekly to keep things nice and neatly mowed. And it would be probably an ordinance thing to have to step into place and have it where once your grass gets so high around a business or a residential house or an empty home for that matter, that the owner of the property must maintain their property.
And thank you. Mr. Warren, the question goes to you next. How do you clean up Weaver? What are your plans?
That's a really good question. In the past, we've done several things different from what we've been doing lately. But I think the number one thing is just enforce the ordinances that we have. If they're enforced and the city stays after it, we'll get the job done. And that's what 90% of it. Some of it can be done through some of these organizations might help out with some, like Ms. Cole mentioned the Master Gardener wanting to help with some beautifying. You know, we might be able to get some organizations to come out and help with stuff. Like the Welcome Weaver sign, if I'm not mistaken, I think it may be on the right of way, but it's on private property. So the city may be kind of questionable whether or not they should cut the grass. But we can find somebody, I'm sure the city can find somebody, and we can get it done. Once again, communication and cooperation. You have to cooperate with everybody in the city of Weaver, and we have to enforce our current ordinance. We have plenty of ordinances at the city to enforce all this stuff. Maybe some of it needs to be changed to be stricter, increase the fines, you know, get people's attention. That might be what we have to do. But basically, it's just good scheduling, using the personnel in Weaver that we have, and which we've had some breakdowns with equipment and stuff like that over the last couple of years. And that's one of the things that we need to improve is the way we get our equipment, the way we buy it, we set up a plan to purchase what we need. So we don't have everything we need to keep up all this stuff that you want clean. But like I said, I think basically the number one thing is just to enforce the ordinances to the letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Your turn. How do you clean up the city?
First of all, we need to get the equipment. We need to service it, need to take care of it. We've got trucks and we've got lawnmowers and we've got all this, but according to our director, it's all broken down, or the brakes are bad, or the seat belts are broken, and we can't clean it up. But like Mike said, we do have ordinances. We have an ordinance for nuisance, and a nuisance ordinance can be enforced. At one time, I think when the grass grew up, the city would go cut it and send the people the bill for it. The trail is pitiful. At one time, Jacksonville would come down and help us with the trail. And I feel like if they were asked, they would do it again. But if anybody rides bicycles on that trail, beware, because the roots are coming up through the cement and the branches on the trees are in your face. The people should be if they do not keep their yards in a decent, I know there's times when you can't get them cut, and I know there's times when it rains and it grows up. I understand that. But you know, we've got a code inspector. He can send them a notice, and then if they don't have it done in so many days or so many weeks, whatever they want to do, then cite them. Because there's nothing in the world that makes a neighborhood look run down than yards that are ill-kept, and city buildings that are ill-kept, and city letting things go like awnings hanging over the buildings. It's just a lot to do, and we've got to do it before anything else. That comes first.
And thank you very much, Ms. Cole. Mr. Hill, your response to efforts to clean up the city of Weaver, how would you handle that?
I'm not a huge fan of municipal ordinances. I think that citations should be the last measure taken, but like she said, a warning can be issued and then maybe at that point a citation. But I think that in our tough economic times, it's going to be difficult for us to repair equipment in the future. It's going to be difficult for us to hire new employees. And I think maybe this is the point where we need to look inside ourselves and take this as an opportunity for us to band together and maybe us do a little bit more. Because for us to hire more people, repair equipment, it's going to take more tax money. And I don't want to pay any more myself, and I'm not going to ask that of any of the residents here. But I think that a lot of this stuff, we need to get more community involvement, like the trail, for instance. I don't have a problem with going out there and working on the trail, and I don't have a problem with getting the community to band together and go out there and do things like that. But, you know, as far as homeowners not mowing their yards and stuff like that, that is something that would have to be addressed by a code enforcement officer. But I do believe that, you know, everyone is entitled to that first warning, but after that, you know, it's citation time. But that's the last step, is getting the citation. Thank you.
And thank you. Mr. Campbell, your turn to discuss the issue of cleaning up the city of Weaver.
Well, I'm sure there's a solution to every problem, but there's a lot to deal with. When it comes to cleaning up the city, some ideas I come up with is like the trail, for instance. I think you could have a work day that would involve a lot of people that they use the trail. You know, like Les said, there's a lot of people that probably are interested in being more involved. There again, it's lack of communication. I think we need to reach out to the people more. Like Natalie said, if you'll ask, there's a lot of things that can happen. I think there's a lot of free gratis service that we could give, because that is a service to the community, and I believe it's important. Myself, I'd be willing to give back to the community if the community's giving me something, and I think that would be something that would need to be addressed. But looks like we are a little bit lacking in the city ordinance enforcement. If you look around the town, the community I grew up in, I still like to go. I don't live there in that subdivision, but my father still lives there. I still have a lot of pride. I walk through that subdivision a lot because I like walking through that subdivision. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, and I've always questioned myself, you know, why are they not enforcing the ordinance to clean up? Maybe we're not hollering loud enough. Maybe you're not hollering loud enough. It takes everybody working together to do it, but I hear what you're saying, because I have the same complaint, and I promise you I haven't complained enough, but maybe that's what we need. And you can call me anytime, complain to me. I'll find a solution. I may not be able to find a solution that satisfies you, but I promise you it'll be addressed if you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Stevens, you get the final word on the issue of how to clean up the city of Weaver.
I believe that it has to, like Mr. Hill said, you have to have some pride in your neighborhood, your community, your city. I live in Buckhorn off of Alexandria-Jacksonville Highway. We have community cleanup. We help our neighbors. We cut their grass when they're on vacation. When they've fallen and they've hurt themselves, we don't have to call and ask. We go cut their grass. You just have to have a little pride in your community. If you see something that needs to be cleaned up, call and ask somebody if you can help, or call and ask if, you know, just anything. I think that in our community lately, there has been a lot of emphasis placed on things that are not helping the community. We need to get past that, have more pride in our community, set goals, and reach them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens.